Hello all, welcome to my channel. My motto of this channel is to learn Python together while solving Python programs. So let's take the first program. The first program is print number of line times the substring occurs in a given string. So I'll write it here for you to look at that. So this is the program question, which is like print number of times that the substring occurs in a given string. Uh, Let's understand this question through an example. So, for suppose we have a string, say A, B, C, K, C, and this is the main string, and suppose the substring is C, K, C. So, we have to find out how many times this this substring occurs in this main string. For example, if you see CKC, if you go from left to right, it occurs like the first time we can see it here, and the second time we can see here. So it's like 1 and 2, 1 and 2. So it occurs twice. So the output should be 2. So input is we need to have given string. So we need to have the main string as the input, and we need to have the substring. So we need to have two inputs. One is string and other is substring. And based on how many times that substring occurs in the main string, we have to count and give the output value to the, we have to print the output value. Like we have to print the result of how many times this occurs in the main string. So this is the question. So first we'll understand what is a string. String So first, before we understand string, let's understand that Python has basic built-in data types. Like it has integers, it has float, it has string, and it has boolean. So there are these are built-in data types. Like for any language you learn, suppose you learn English, you learn before we learn English, the first thing we learn is like alphabets and the grammar of English. So similarly, to learn any language, like suppose for Python language, we need to understand the built-in data types. So integers, float, string, boolean, and some complex numbers. These are all kind of built-in data types, like the basic syntax of Python language. So we might have already known about integers, float, complex numbers. So Boolean, even Boolean also most of us familiar because might have learned in childhood the math. So Boolean is basically true or false. It's either of those two values. It's just only true or fa false. Integers and float, you know that there are like 1, 2, 3, all those are integer numbers. Uh, and Floats is point 0.1 or anything decimal number is floats. So string is basically a sequence of characters. String is always delimited with a single quote or double quote. So anything inside the single quote or a double quote is called a string. For example, anything inside this or even the empty single quotes, it's also called a string, but this is empty one. So even both this and this both are same. So for example, let's take this string A, B, C, K. So suppose substring is C, K, C. We have to find out how many times this occurs in the string. So C, K, C. So usually there are some methods for a string. For example, we know that these are three characters. So we can count. We can say that 1, 2, 3, and the length of the substring is three characters, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We know that the length of this string is 7 characters. We can do that by counting it. So how Python inbuilt will do is it by default puts the first character in 0 place and second character in 1 place and third character in second place. It's same here. That's how uh, Python knows what character. Suppose if you say SS of 0, then it will show C. If you say S of 0, then it will show A. So it knows the what's character in each of the like I said, say string is a series of characters, right? Each character will take a byte. So first byte it will always start with 0. So in place of 0, it will know that there is a character A. Similarly, and so on for all these characters. So there is a method called length. So if you do length of S characters, it can calculate by default, and it will show that based on the memory, it can say that length of 7 S string is 7. And by default length of SS, as you know, it will be 3. This is by default. These methods are available in Python. They can know that. So when you have to calculate how many times this occurs in this, we have to search from first character to the length of the string. So we have to go through a loop, like we have to see how many times this occurs in this one by checking from left to right. So how do you check in inside the code? By doing a loop. So we are doing nothing but like searching from left to right. Like we have to search every 3 characters from left to right. So for that we have to use the for loop. For like suppose if we do ss of 0 to 2, we'll get 0 1. So it will, when you give 0 to 2, it will always take 0 and 1. So 2 is not included, only the first digit is included. So when you do 0 to 2, you will get ck value. When you do S0 to 3, you'll get 0 1 2, 0 1 2 inside this. 0 1 2 inside this is ABC. So you'll get ABC when you do. So we have to go through a loop, and we have to see 3 characters first, and then next 3 characters, and then next 3 characters, and then next 3 characters, and so on. So we have to go through the loop of checking each 3 characters in that loop until we get to the end of the string. So for that, what we have to do is we have to go through a for loop. For I in range, we have to start with 0. That's where the first character starts, and we have to go until end of the string. So length of S. So this is the syntax for the for loop. So that's how we go through entire string length. And then we have to check. So before we do that, we have to count, right? So we need to have a variable to have the count value. Count substring. Suppose we can put this any random variable name. I'm keeping it to count ss. Suppose because we don't know the value yet, we'll keep it as 0 for now. So when we go through the loop, we have to check if 3 characters, right? So what is the three characters is nothing but the length of the substring. We don't know how many characters is the substring is, but we just know that we have to check the number of characters in the substring. So s of I 2, and then we have to start from 0, and then 2 plus length of the substring. I plus length of substring. Length of substring is always integer, and I is always integer. So we have to do this so that we'll get from 0 to 2. In this example, length of substring is 3. So we'll get first, when we go through the first loop, we'll get 0 to 3. If we have to check if this is equal to substring. So if this is equal to substring, only then we have to count that value. So count substring equal to plus or equal to 1. So every time this 3 characters equal to substring, we have to count this value by 1. So that at the end of this, we'll get by the time it completes this for loop, we'll get the entire substring value, which is like number of times that substring had occurred in the main string. So with this, we'll get the final result. So let's run this program. So it's asking for the main string. So let's give it the example that we thought of. What's the substring? I'm giving same as the example that we do or that we took. So now see the count of substring is 2. Suppose let's rerun it. Suppose I give all A's as this entire thing is a string. So suppose if I give C. C is not present in that string at all. So if you see that, the count is 0 because C is not present in the main string at all. So that's why it's 0. With this I conclude. Thank you for watching my video.